Hey, good morning, everybody. It's Hammer. Today is Friday, April 11th, 2025. I, of course, am Hammer here with your daily mortgage rate update, the only place on the web where you can join me live each and every weekday morning on Facebook and on YouTube, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, talking about what's going on with rates and pricing. If you're here live, say good morning. If you're watching on the replay, go ahead and give me a hashtag replay in the comments. Let me know that you were here. Let Facebook and YouTube know that you're here. If you're on Facebook, don't forget to smash that like button, tag an hello friend, share this post in a group. If you're on YouTube, make sure you give us a thumbs up. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe and definitely comment. Helps the algorithm. This is starting to gain some traction and get in front of more people. So appreciate you doing that. If you're watching the replay, jump ahead until we get to the good stuff. In the meantime, always love to say hello to my friends. Who's here this morning? Say good morning as we say hello to all of the live folks here. And then once again, thank you for joining me each and every day. You're the reason I do this. You keep watching, I'll keep babbling. So good morning, Tim Kyla. Tim, I need you to reach out to me immediately after this. I have a refi lead for you. When I did the post from Grab and Go Social the other day, it generated a refi lead, and so give me a holler. James Mahan, good morning, sir. Kyle Mazikas, great to see you. Rob Stewart, great to have you here. Deb Dickinson, good morning. Mallory Fotiadis, great to see you. Diane Dixon, hello. Mike Tebow, good to see you, sir. Megan Lindberg, Angela Walters, good morning. Yeah, and for the record, Tim is a faithful, longtime Originator Success member, Grab and Go Social member, and if y'all support me, I, of course, when the opportunity arises, I will do my best to support you as well. So, Thomas Sloan, good morning. Dave Holland, great to have you here. And Sean Segaloff, TGIF, F for forget it. Forget fun, Sean. It's F for forget it. I don't know if the TGIF means fun. It's TGIF. Thank goodness it's Friday. Is more of the real deal. Giddy up, Mr. Randy Tickle. Great to see you, sir. Remember, everybody, if you would like a reminder that I'm going live, you could sign up at hmmr.io/reminder or use this cool QR code over here. If you're on your phone, take a screenshot, go back to your photos. The QR codes work. I just think that's the greatest thing. I only found that out a little while ago. So anyway, let's go ahead and let's get started. I'm going to get into the deep of it here. I'm playing around with the scenes and getting a little bit better at this. So actually, let me hide that because that's not what I want. I'm going to say, hold on, I got to scroll around here. Let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to share the screen. All right. So sharing the screen this morning, here's what we got going on. Mortgage-backed securities currently down 34 basis points on the day. You could see that we've seen huge drops in mortgage-backed securities. The other day I said to float, and we had a huge recovery. And then I said, okay, let's not push it, and talked about locking some loans. Yesterday, we did send out a lock alert. Also in the morning commentary and on the live, I basically said, don't push it. So I know I'm whipsawing around as the conditions in the market change, as the perspective in the market changes and what direction we're likely to see things go. So does advice, right? Now, here at this point, what we're doing is we're looking for the swells. We can expect more volatility. We're very likely to see things get worse from here. This puts us in a much stronger position to lock. Again, I don't want to seem wishy-washy, but let's kind of go over what's going on together and take a look. If you use Mortgage News Daily, we've seen rates go from the lowest levels, 6.60. That was the best level that we had seen for the year. Let me scroll this over so we can look at it together, right? So 6.60, and then we've pushed up, and they're showing 7. I think we're well over 7 at this point. But we've seen a half a point jump in rates. We've seen rates continue to get worse. If we take a look at mortgage-backed securities, let me just bump this so it's on the side here. If we take a look here and you look at the 5-day chart, you can see that we have seen, from up here, right? Mortgage-backed securities were at 100.36, dropping. Here was that the day of volatility that I said to float. We dropped huge, rebounded, dropped, recovered. Then since then, yesterday we dropped. Today we're dropping some more. What's different today, Friday, than Wednesday? Wednesday's drop was more of a knee-jerk reaction with a lot of technical selling mixed in. Today is part of that longer trend. You can see that the 10-year Treasury yield is continuing to move higher. Right now it's at 4.52, and it's not looking good for rates, y'all. It's not looking good. Let's talk about what's going on behind the scenes a little bit. So basically, there's still a lot of chaos and panic, right? Trump's tariff shift still has markets, industry groups panicked. And President Trump's casting his latest tariff plan as a strategic win. Markets and business leaders only see more chaos ahead. Again, here, I'll throw this up there. Let's pop this up here, right? So this is not an endorsement or a criticism. It's simply commentary. Trump is always going to spin it as a win. The guy could crash a car into a brick wall and then tell you how great his driving was. That's what Trump does. He reminds me a lot of Steve Jobs. If you've ever read or heard anything autobiographical about Steve Jobs, you will hear that they said that he had a reality distortion field. Trump is very similar. People that make big leaps and big moves have that reality distortion field. They don't see things around them as they really are. They create their own reality. And again, this is something we could go deep on. But the reason this matters is if you're trying to forecast or project where things are going to go from here, you can't, because you don't know what Trump is going to do and what the responses necessarily will be. Now, we know what's moving the market. In fact, I'm writing the morning lock advice, and let me bring this over here so you all can see it. And I said, pick your spots, take your shots. That's the new lock float advice, right? The strategy for most files these days: wait until you get a good day and lock it. The problem is we're seeing a lot more losses before we see any gains. Okay. To say we're dealing with volatility is an understatement, also a bit of a cop-out. It makes it sound like we have no idea what's going to happen or what will cause it, which isn't true as much as it feels that's the case. No, we know it's driving the moves in the market, including mortgage rates. It's just that we don't know the timing of when it will happen or even if it will happen. All right. Don't worry. Keep reading. What I say makes more sense. And I got to finish writing this part here. But at some point, people stop choosing ideals over their own best interests. And when I say this, I'm talking about other countries, right? Other countries, they need us. Don't mistake what's going on. This is a global game of cat and mouse. Right now, the two biggest players are the US and China. However, everyone is watching and waiting from Australia to Zimbabwe. You should catch that's from an A to Z kind of a thing, right? So some have boycotted us, including our treasuries, and that's partly why we're seeing what we see happen. But don't expect that to last for long, despite the chatter of how the dollar won't be the world currency forever. That's been said a few different times, and it's not going to happen. It's not going to change. Or the treasuries are not the world's safe haven they once were. Countries need us. They need us, and it's hurting them. And it's a matter of whether, it's hurting them more but it's hurting them trying to hurt us. Eventually things will return to a normal or a lot closer to normal. And that's still going to take a while. It's going to take quite a while. The thing with Trump, though, is it could happen in 5 minutes. The guy flip-flops very quickly. You could say he's either very decisive or very indecisive. I think he's decisive. He sees a direction, he goes. He's not afraid to pivot. He doesn't slow down. So we could see things change very quickly. And during this time, though, we can expect to see more pain before we get relief, even as mortgage rates, are kind of bouncing around right now. They're really just moving higher. Now, there's a few things to definitely pay attention to here. The first one, a lot of people were talking about China driving up the price of treasuries, right? Well, let's start with the bigger headlines here and talk about China. So right now, China raises the U.S. tariff to 125%, sees more tit for tat as futile. They basically said it was a joke. Let's see if Bloomberg. Let me pull up Bloomberg, and I think I don't remember whether they said it was a joke or China caps tariffs on U.S. at 125%, calls Trump levies a joke. Again, this is all about saving face while still trying to do these things. I'm not going to profess whether this stuff is good or bad. I really don't know. I really don't know. However, what you see happening here, the way that I interpret this, and let me know how you guys interpret this, right? I interpret this as, okay, we are retaliating because China does not want to lose face. They do not want to admit that they're still second fiddle to the US. However, by saying that they cap it at 125%, that they're basically drawing the line in the sand that it's not going to continue, and they get to pretend that they're taking the higher road by doing it. And calling Trump's tariffs a joke, it's a way that they can go ahead and insult us and insult Trump, but yet still start to move towards diffusing everything. China retaliated against Trump's latest tariffs by hiking duties on all U.S. goods while calling the administration's actions a joke and saying it no longer considers them worth matching. So it's almost like if you're losing an argument and you say, "I'm not going to argue anymore. It's just not worth arguing." You don't get it anyway. I kind of see that happening. What's going on here? We're never going to see these tariffs stay at these levels. Consumers, can't afford it. Again, 125%. That means they're more than doubling the cost of goods to come into a country. There's no argument that this hurts companies or hurts the other country. It hurts consumers. And the key thing is, it's kind of funny when China puts tariffs against the US, because there's a lot less of an effect on that because we have such a huge trade imbalance. And that's partly what this is meant to deal with. We have a huge trade imbalance. We are consuming tremendously more that comes from China than China consumes from the US. So this is one way for China to start to diffuse and lay the groundwork for things to turn around. And they will turn around. When they turn around, you'll see things improve in treasuries. Now, again, there was a period of time when this whole thing first started, when the tariffs first came out. We saw mortgage bonds improving. There was a flight to safety. Stocks were absolutely chaotic, and we saw a classic flight to safety. And you don't see that often anymore, and there's arguments on why. But to me, the market has shifted. It's grown more complex. What happens is then, as everything was selling, it caused more selling in bonds. It caused selling in treasuries, and everything trickles down. It's kind of like when they build that champagne glass tower and they pour it in the top glass, and everything comes down into the glasses below it, right? Just down, down, down. You know what I'm talking about. That's what's happening here. So when you see the 10-year treasury yield rise, that means the prices are falling. When yields rise, prices fall. Same thing as prices falling in mortgage-backed securities. Now, remember, on Thursday, April 3rd, we're at 100.40 for the 5.5 coupon. We're now at 97.93. That's 250 basis points lower than where we were at in just over a week. We're one day past a week. And in fact, on Friday, we were at 130. So we'll say it was 240 basis points in a week. All right. That's a huge drop. This morning, we're seeing mortgage-backed securities falling through the floor again. I wouldn't lock yet. But here's the problem. First of all, if anything's been closed, if you've got anything closing in the next 15 days, hopefully you were already locked. We have had so many people. Hold on, I'll move this over. We've had so many people that have jumped into our text alerts. And let me pull those over so that we can go over them together, right? So we've had so many people join. Yesterday, we said, hey, we told you, we started off, loans with time should consider floating longer. Loans closing soon may want to lock at the first sign of trouble. All right. So here's the deal. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Don't have a crystal ball. Here's how I see things playing out, though. What we're seeing is exaggerated, very large moves that are scary. These are nail biters. When we see these really big moves, these are nail biters. So what we've got going on right now is you're going to see big jumps in rates, but you'll also see opportunities for big drops in rates. Normally, lenders are slower to pass along gains than they are to, pass along and increase. I don't think that's going to be quite the case right now because we're going to see these huge fluctuations in volumes. Now, a couple of things. Number one, I've had a lot of different brokers reach out to me and talk about, pocket or double locking, or locking and floating, double apping, lock with one lender, process the file and float with another. They will remember this. You can make that decision and how it's going to affect your relationship with lenders and your business. But you're not the only one doing it. Lenders are going to have to price that in. You're going to see them pricing that in because they're going to take losses on locks that don't get delivered. This is serious business. When you have, for you, it may be one loan. For lenders, it's going to be a lot more than that. And when they have locks that they're not going to be able to deliver on, what's going to happen is they're going to have to buy their way out of it, whether they're buying loans on what's called the scratch and dent market, whether they are taking a haircut and selling the loan, but eating the loss. Well, all of that is being factored in. It's what your secondary department does. It's what your hedge managers, your lock department, your lock managers, the wholesale lenders and their secondary departments. This is what they do. They are calculating all of those risks. It's going to be worked into the locking. It may save your borrowers. It could, but you have to decide if it's worth it. Others are saying about float down options. Yes, we could, because of the severity of where markets are and how they're moving, we could see where if you lock loans and rates improve, they're going to improve in big waves. Look at what we have seen happen. I mean, we've seen within one day, 100 basis point swings, 80 basis point swings. We were down 80 basis points on Wednesday and we ended the day almost up, right? So, these are things that you need to factor in on this. When it comes to this, these are not regular times. Loans with time. The question becomes, are we going to see better rates than what we have now? And the answer is probably. That's the thing. We don't know, right? How long could all this drama between the US and China, how long could this occur? How much will other countries get in on it? Now, remember, Trump came back and said, okay, we're going to put a 90-day pause on many, many of the other tariffs on these other countries. But he really held it hard for China. The argument was it was because they retaliated. I think it's deeper than that. I don't think no matter what they did, I think it was going to happen anyway. It has to do with the trade imbalance and trying to fix something that has happened over a long time. The problem is if you have something that moves over time and gets worse over time, it's very gradual and you don't feel it. If you try to correct it all at once, it's creating a lot of pain. This is almost like a surgery to fix a bunion, right? If you ever Google a bunion, the bone moves, the whole thing moves. That doesn't happen overnight, but that during surgery, they put that thing back. The benefit to there is you're under anesthesia and then you're on pain meds. Right now, the only anesthesia that you're probably taking is some shots of whiskey, right? So that's kind of where we're at now. Randy said, why won't lenders give a better float down policy in current environment? It has to do with the back end hedging, Randy. So what happens is mortgages are sold forward. They're to be delivered, TBD. So what happens is if I lock this loan with a consumer, the lender is basically, they have an option. They can continue to float on their end, and they're basically playing their pipeline, right? They're trading their pipeline. If they lock a loan forward and they say, okay, I am going to deliver this loan to Fannie Mae, and here are the terms of this loan. It's at, just for argument's sake, we'll use this here, but like it's at 6% or it's at 6.5%. And Fannie Mae is going to pay me, we've locked it in. Fannie Mae is going to pay me 200 or 300 basis points for that loan. Just to arguments, these are not real numbers. They're just round numbers. So what happens is 6.5, they're going to pay me 300 basis points. As the market moves, and that loan has now been promised. So I'm on the hook to deliver a $400,000 loan at 6.5%, and Fannie Mae is going to pay me 3 points on it. Well, what happens if rates jump and I still have to give Fannie Mae that loan that is at 6.5%? It's going to go in that pool. If I have to adjust the rate, then I have to buy it up or down, just like you would on a rate sheet. So, for markets, the money doesn't just appear. They have to come up with more money and more profit. When they do a float down, the idea is, okay, that's why you'll always notice you don't get the best pricing on a float down, because they have to pay to buy their way out of the other loan. So that's why, I'm going to do that by making more money on this file and other files. Maybe I spread my losses among 10 files that are not. So float downs are not, and again, as quantity of pipeline, that affects how it happens on the trading side, on the hedging side, and on the secondary side. If they have to float down a lot of loans, that means more losses, and they can't just take losses. They need to make profit. How do you make profit? So all of that is a big thing. As far as let's chat some of what you guys say, and then we'll wrap it up for the day. It's already 20 minutes. Siegel says Trump holds grudges. He was embarrassed by China in his prior administration. He could be repaying them now. Absolutely. This is all a giant pissing match. And I got news for you. Again, I don't care how you feel about Trump, but he's going to claim victory no matter what happens. No matter how this plays out, Trump's going to claim victory on it. Doesn't really. So, but how this will play out, China needs us. Their economy is struggling. Their government is a communist country, and their government props up their economy, manipulates their economy, which we do too, and we're not communist, but they can only prop it up so much. They can only stimulate their own economy so much. They need to sell us things. So this is going to come to a head, and then something's going to happen. When it does, mortgage rates will very likely improve. Can't tell you what definitively anything will happen, but it will very likely improve. Now, Mike says the goal all along has been to isolate China as a main offender. I agree. I agree with both Ron and Mike on these points. So Mike said the U.S. exported 143.5 billion in goods to China. 438 billion worth of goods went in the other direction. Yeah, that's 3-1. So you're looking at a 3-1 trading ratio there, and that's why they need us more than anything. Ron also pointed out yesterday we had a strong 30-year auction. The 30-year is purchased by institutions. Institutions are smart. We can count on a rebound to where smart money is buying. They have a lot of money for a reason. Exactly. When we see all of this drama disappear, it will help mortgage rates to improve again. Rates need to be in the mid to high sixes is kind of where that neutral is right now. They're going to push into the sevens as we go through all this. The question is, how long will they be there? The conversation I would be having with consumers right now is, if you do get forced to buy a home at a higher rate, don't pay points. We'll look to refinance you when things come down. If they're VA loans, it'll take 210 days, but rates will come back down, especially if this has a rippling effect on the economy and slows the economy. If the economy slows down, if the job market slows down, mortgage rates are going to improve. So the writing is on the wall for a better second half of the year for mortgage rates. In the near term, in the most immediate time, panic is the key word, man. Panic is the key word. We're going to see a lot of movement. Also, just real quick, because I don't remember if I touched on it yet or not. A lot of people have been talking about China manipulating markets and treasuries and selling off a lot of their treasuries. Like I said, there's no record of that. It's a lot of speculation. There's argument that it could be happening, but there was an interesting article here in Bloomberg that, a lot of different sources talking about why they felt that it was or was not happening and where things are at, kind of a thing. So you can read this even as a free article. If you use like an incognito window, I think you get 3 free articles with Bloomberg, at least you used to. And you could go and check this out for those of you that are interested in that, but it doesn't really matter either way. So as far as where we're at, again, we're going to see some craziness here. I would be floating right now. Anything closing near term. Yeah, I'm going to throw it up on the screen again, but actually I don't have it. So, Mike said the problem is the writing is not in permanent ink. Yeah, the writing on the wall. I got you. That was was Mike's comment, which is a funny one. I get you, my friend. So anyway, the with what we got going on here, I mean, I'm not in a hurry to lock in, especially loans. People are reaching out to me. You know, I've got something closing in May. I've got something closing at the end of April. We're going to see get worse before it gets better, but it will turn around. The question is, it becomes, all right, so for argument's sake, let's say that rates right now are at 6.97. Let's just say 7, right? Rates are at 7. Do they get to 7.5 and come back to 7.25? Or do they go to 7.25 and fall back to 6.75? Nobody knows. So that's where the risk comes in. Do we know that rates will get better? Yeah, they will. It's a matter of when. Loans that have more time, as much of a nail biter as it is, and as scary as it is, you can lock for protection. If somebody is freaking out, if ratios are tight, you got to look at locking and then have that conversation of what we do later when rates fall. For people that have time, and you can wait this out. It's nerve-wracking, it's scary, it's all that stuff, but we will see reversals. We have seen so much movement. We will see a rebound. We will see money go back into treasuries. When stocks really do rally, you'll see rebalancing in portfolios, and bonds will rally as well. It's not like it used to be where if stocks rally, bonds will have to take it on the chin. You'll see them both rally. So that's kind of where we're at. Hopefully that helps you. Let me know if that helped you in the comments. Would love to find out more about, I just want to know if what I'm doing is helping you. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Yeah, see, Ron Siegel said China's not selling treasuries. It would hurt them and help us. That's kind of that's how I believe too. When you know about currency manipulation and things like that, it would prop up the dollar. So I don't think they are either. That's what I've said. Let me know if today helped you. Let me know if you guys agree with this. Let me know if you've got heartburn and if you're keeping your acids close to you. I know I would be right now. But the main thing is you've got to focus on writing loans even in this market. Yes, you want to get your borrowers the best rate you can, but people need to buy houses. When's the best time to buy a house? When you can buy a house. You can't. I mean, we're seeing rates. These aren't rates that have jumped 2%. Rates are, a 0.5% higher. That sucks, but it'll come around. The problem is loan amounts are so much higher now. So a half a point of rates is a big move when it comes to a $400,000 or $500,000 loan. It wasn't a big deal when it was $120,000 or $140,000 loan. Rates moving a half a point on a $120,000 loan doesn't hurt as much as a $480,000 loan. It's 4 times as bad. The math does work out that way. So, Terry, thank you. Ron Siegel, the Fed could refi its Treasury holdings with China holdings. Hire 2 new consultants, Jack Daniels and Jim Beam. Yeah, it's a funny one. There you go. So otherwise, have a fantastic weekend, y'all. Focus on your prospecting. Keep the conversation with consumers. Talk to them. Hopefully this has helped you with some of your conversations with them. And Mark Frederick, whiskey is the best LO tool right now. Yeah, I mean, it just this kind of market is very difficult. But if you do, there's no wrong answer. That's the problem. There's no right answer is actually the problem. They're all wrong answers. Floating could be risky. Locking is terrible. So Michael said it was helpful. Awesome. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. So y'all have a fantastic weekend. I will see you on Monday. I almost have this set up now where I can actually let me see something. Hold on a minute. I'm going to try something here. Let me go here. No, that's not what I wanted. So, all right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up, y'all. You guys have a fantastic one, and I will see you on Monday. Bye-bye.